comprehension. Perhaps it's something that we take for granted. On this journey, we're going to look into the nature of comprehension and see where that leads us. But where to start? Well, one place we could start is the infinite coast, which leads us to our first question, which is, what is the infinite coast? And I think perhaps one way of answering that question, or getting to answer that question, is measurement. So I think what we'll do is we'll measure just a part of the infinite coast accurately and see where that leads us. So, here looks as good a place as any to start our measurement. But we're faced with a problem, and that problem is the tide. The tide means that the sea rises and falls constantly. And the trouble with that is that it's changing the shape of the coast constantly. So this is a bit of a problem for our measurement. But if we could know where the mean tide level was, well, then we could measure from there. But where is it? And how do we find out? Fortunately for us, barnacles come to the rescue because they know where the mean tide level is, of course. So we'll use that level as where we measure. Okay, so we'll measure from here to Cockenzie Harbour, which isn't that far away, and I think we'll do it in metre lengths. So there we go, and we'll start from about there. But straight away we have a problem, and that problem is that we're missing out a lot of detail. Let's try that again. Yep, there's no doubt about it. We're missing out a lot of detail. What to do? Well, we could measure it in, I don't know, 20 centimeters. Surely that will solve it. Let's try that and see what happens. But it's clear, even at 20 centimeters, we're still missing out a lot of detail, no matter how hard we try. Alright then. So, let's try jumping to 5 centimeters. But no, we still find we are missing out detail. And by the time we get down to 2 centimeters, and we still find we are yet missing out detail, I'm wondering, do we have to go down to millimeters? It's becoming clear that no matter how hard we try to measure the coast with absolute accuracy, the more and more there is to measure, and the more we are forced to concede our coast is revealing its nature to be infinite. But if the coast really is infinite, how on earth are we going to measure it when the harder we try and measure it, the more absolute measurement runs away from us, transforming the measurement of the coast into a maddening impossibility? But perhaps there is another way we could look at the infinite coast. So let's instead imagine that we are walking along the infinite coast. It's night time and it's a full moon, and in our hand we have 2 grains of sand. And as we look at them carefully, we realize that they are both unique in their own way, and that this is their real value. And as we brush them off our hand and onto the beach, they are not losing any of their value, but adding to the value of the grains on the beach and to the beach as a whole. And as I look up to the stars, I see exactly the same thing. And I realize that value is scaleless, not reductive. And as I walk along the beach, I'm shifting the sand with every step I take, creating new relationships of uniqueness and adding to the value of the beach. So, having walked along the infinite coast, let's now go back to measurement and to our ruler. The thing is, if we zoom all the way down to a ruler increment notch, as we zoom in, we would find it grows wider and wider. Worse still, the edges of the ruler notches start getting a bit wobbly, and the closer we look, the wider the notch gets and the more wobbly its edges become. It's a repeat of the infinite coast. Actually, if we were to go on, zooming down on our ruler, or any ruler, these edges would become so blurred, so indistinct, that by the time we got to molecules, edges will have turned into mere areas of transition. Because really, there are no final, absolute edges to anything. The thing is, absolute measurement by division demands an absolute edge, which at the same time is something that doesn't fundamentally exist. And it is this impossible, maddening edge that is the problem. It is this that is maddening us, and not the infinite coast at all. It is the subtle thing, always on the periphery of our comprehension. As long as we are intent on measuring by division, because we're always fighting an empathic part of ourselves that knows this all along. However, it's in our trying to measure the infinite coast by division that we are forced to actually confront the reality of the maddening edge, to face up to there being actually no fundamental, final edge to anything. So what am I saying? That we should throw away our rulers? No, that would be ridiculous. And besides, there's no need. You see, it's not even that wobbliness in the dividing notches that are, or is the problem here. They are just being how they really are. No, it's actually about our comprehension. But now we have been to the infinite coast, resolution is before us. All we have to do is see our ruler for how it really is. Uniquenesses relating to each other in an orderly line. So, if I now measured the distance, say, from myself to a wall, with the mentality of the infinite coast, then it's all about finding my unique relationship to the wall in space. I'm not about dividing myself from it by distance. It's no longer about dividing up space by absolute measurement and its maddening edge. Because if we can manage to measure by the mindfulness of relationships, the maddening edge will just melt away. With the mentality of the infinite coast, infinity is no longer something that maddens us, but is now something that makes more natural sense to us. And it's not just space that is tainted by the maddening edge, it is time also. Indeed, with time we are more likely to feel more keenly the maddening edge, because it's not just space the infinite coast applies to, it's time as well. We all know that time has no edges, and yet in the early part of the 21st century we all live as if time has sharp edges, even though we know that it doesn't. And it is this that can madden us. As we measure time by division, we are imposing on ourselves an impossible absolute, infecting ourselves with the maddening edge. Yet, as with space, the resolution is the same. By measuring by relationships, time loses its deeper maddening edge. The bus does not always arrive at exactly 4 o'clock. But if I were to go to the bus stop at 8 minutes to 4, then I would likely improve the potential of myself catching the bus. Just as on the infinite coast with time and tide mean that the mean tide is marked out by barnacles loosely. The stars and planets are remarkable in the accuracy of their movements, and yet, on some level, uniqueness will creep in. So, it seems that not even Newton can be absolutely right. But does that mean then that we should throw away all our clocks? Throw away Newton's laws? No. Again, that would be completely ridiculous. No. Just as with our ruler, it's all about relationships and their potential. Clearly, comprehension is at the heart of measurement. Without comprehension, there is no measurement. There is nothing at all. Comprehension is everything. For measurement, it is everything. It is what shapes our world within and without. It's not insignificant then that if we comprehend by divisionism, then we will partially cut ourselves off from the infinite coast, bringing the maddening edge to haunt us. Whereas, if we comprehend by relationships, then we more connect ourselves to the infinite coast and to a place where infinity is transformed, not into something that maddens us, but into something that we can understand. But here's the thing. Perhaps this may all seem even a little esoteric, but supposing we fundamentally applied this not just to time, space and things, but also to the way we fundamentally measure, value each other and actually ourselves. Because let's face it, at least some of our comprehension of each other as people in the early part of the 21st century is likely to involve some measurement by division, if we're honest about it. And where it does, the maddening edge will be there. And this should give us pause for thought, because it shows a different light on how we comprehend and value ourselves and each other. It seems to me the more measurement by division there may be in us, the more potential there is for us to only partially comprehend each other. And the more this may come to madness just a little more to ourselves and each other. And here's another thought. How much of this maddening edge will then be reflected in ourselves, our communities, our government? I would suggest that it's hard for a more scaleless, empathic, cohesive community and government to flourish in such soil. We certainly can't throw away our governments, our communities, because somehow we feel they don't maddeningly measure up. We always feel our government somehow falls short. We can never be absolutely happy with it. We can never be absolutely happy with ourselves. It seems to me that we can't afford to allow divisionism to subtly grow and dominate us. As we are right now, we are a half-comprehending mix of the infinite coast and divisionism. It's this maddening gap in our comprehension that turns the infinite into the finite, and the resources of our world into a finite that's rapidly diminishing and threatening all our futures. I would argue that by allowing ourselves to be gripped by the maddening edge, we have in our own way departed from the path of evolution to return to evolution and away from this maddening finite. All that is required is for us to realize the more divisionist we are, the more it will be harder for us to see the infinite coast and grow into a more practical, empathic civilization where the resolution to our maddening divisionism resides. All we have to do is take one scaleless step on the infinite coast to rediscover our true value and the true value of all things. And in that is the first step to finding the scaleless resolution to our civilization and the civilization in ourselves. And only then will we be able to walk along the infinite coast and amongst the stars.